So it's, you know,
Yeah.
and I know that coming up with plans can't really, or good plans, can't really be put into a slogan because it's way too complicated. But, you know, I would like to hear more of a plan, you know?
Right.
If they really
That's the
have
thing.
a plan,
Yeah.
write it out, you know?
Right.
Publish it.
Right. Well, I think Jane Fonda does the most of that, more than the others. I mean, Obama and Cuban. I mean, Cuban has specifics, you know, and he has come out about the Democratic mayoral guy that won. I can't remember his name right now, but he said he's kind of the other side of Trump. They both are put out policies that can't be done, popularist policies that can't be enacted. But so anyway, I think Cuban gets more specific. Obama's like, come on, you know, you have a lot more experience. You can be more specific. I'm kind of disappointed in him. But I think the thing that I admire, one of the things I admire about Fonda is that she uses her celebrity to earn money, to raise money. She gets out there and does it, whereas every celebrity who, you know, there's a lot of other people who could be doing the same, where there's only about a handful, 5 to 10 celebrities that I think really put their muscle into the game. But she's the one that I remember. She goes out and she helps people raise money. She goes to fundraisers. She lets people use her name to help bolster their fundraising, and money is a big name of the game, you know, and especially early money in campaigns.
Yeah.
So I admire her for that. But anyway, any other thoughts? And then I'd like to get your opinion
Yes,
on
I
something
do.
else.
I have some real quick housekeeping to do. Scott Jones, the famous Reverend Scott Jones, our friend, you're going to have to go out and come back in because it's not allowing us to let you come up and speak. And we would love to hear from you. So go out and come back in. I will tell you personally, I know Mark Cuban. We met like 30 years ago. He and I share the fact that both of us grew up in Pittsburgh, and we have common people that we know. But I know him from when he was running. This is way before he became a gazillionaire. He was just a common millionaire at the time. But I was running an early internet company in Los Angeles, and we worked together on a project very early on. So I know Mark pretty well. And he's a really good guy. It's somewhat of a surprise that he got into politics because he's really been apolitical most of his life and most of his career. He's always been a practical person. He's always sort of been a institutional Democrat. And he was very disappointed when many of his friends got red pilled. And that's one of the reasons of his reaction and his activism. But it's also... He has become more active. He sold his share. Well, he still has his share, but he sold his majority ownership of the basketball team, the Dallas Mavericks, and he started a direct-to-consumer drug pharmacy company, and he's very much into universal health care, and he's a big proponent of providing health care to, the thing that he's really pissed off is obviously the destruction and denigration of Medicaid. And anyway, so he is a good guy, but he is no raging leftist either. He tends to be a middle-of-the-road institutional Democrat with a slight libertarian, and he is a big proponent of crypto. He's done very well with crypto, as many of us have. He's a good guy with good intentions, and he's putting his name out. He doesn't have to do that, and he really does hate Trump, which is really good. And he's motivated to do what he can to try to prevent Trump from destroying the earth. So he's a good guy with good intentions, but he's never going to be a guy. And look, he's going to be pushed back against the progressive side, which is fine. I mean, we're all a big tent there. going in the right direction. And I really, and I like, and he's a good guy. He's a guy who has all of his original friends from college and high school that he hangs around with and plays basketball with. I can send him a note. I only contact him maybe once or twice a year, but he'll answer me a very short answer. But I know only to ask him something that's specific. But if I have something specific, he'll answer within usually an hour, hour and a half. It's amazing that he has enough time to do that. But yeah, we all got together and do that. All right, where was I? Let's see, we had Stephanie. Oh, good, Scott.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm interested in getting some advice. Okay, I went to the Palantir protest yesterday. It was a little shorter, but kind of the same thing as last time, which is Palantir is the Peter Thiel, Alex, whatever, Karp, or whatever that guy's name is, contractor that sells data and spyware hardware to, well, all over the world, but the federal government uses it for terrorists, but they also are using it in the ICE tracking, to identify people. So anyway, they're trying to protest to shut down the hiring pipeline of college students for the Palantir thing. That's their goal of this protest. But I go to Tesla Takedown, and I went Wednesday, and someone put a sign up. This really upset me, and I'm interested to see what y'all think. They put a sign not out to the street, but to the employees. It's been closed, and they just opened 2 weeks ago. So there's a staff inside of the showroom, the car showroom. And this sign, so it's directed to the employees. And it says, "You work for a Nazi, what does that make you?" And that really upsets me, because I feel as if we shouldn't be targeting employees, people that are trying to make a living. They can't control what their CEO does. I just feel as if it's a misdirected thing that is not going to help us move us forward, and accusing people we don't know, that are not on the public record, that are not public figures, regular people that are working a job, of being Nazis. And I think that's wrong. And it's a debate in this group I'm in now. It's turned into this freedom of speech, all this stuff, debate. But I think it's wrong, and I feel really badly about it. So any thoughts?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's interesting that you're saying this, because I know that you're active in the sort of protests at Tesla dealerships, right? Aren't you doing that? I remember you saying that.
That's where the sign was at. The sign was at the Tesla dealership. Yeah.
All right. So the thing is that I love the boycotting Tesla, because I think it's effective and it's working. And I think if we can close down Tesla, that would be a wonderful thing. And Elon Musk should be punished for his Nazi salutes and his promoting the AfD and other Nazi parties in Europe. So I think that's that's totally fair. But the Palantir thing, I think it might be a little different. I think there might be a distinction there, where like you said, these are people just working, and they sort of know. But I think it's not a bad idea to protest. I think it's a good idea to protest there. It's a good idea to have constant 24-hour protests in front of Trump Tower. I think it's in front of Bedminster. Anything Trump, anything related to Trump enablers, there should be protests. You don't have to call them all Nazis. I agree with that. But they should be. The ones that I have no trouble calling Nazis are ICE. I believe the people who are now a lot of ICE people who had been ICE, career ICE people, have left because they don't want to have anything to do with this. And they're being replaced by the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys and the Ku Klux Klan, the worst of the worst. We have to make sure we make a distinction between local police and National Guard and ICE. ICE is literally, they're building a Nazi Gestapo criminal gang, violent criminal gang. and they should be. We should make sure they all know that they're Nazis. But everybody else, no. I think you're right. Everybody else, we can protest without going that distinction. That's my opinion.
Thanks, Ben. Anybody else? It's basically the sign was at the dealership, at the car show, not at the Palantir thing. But
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I do have a question. Do people really want to shut down Tesla, or do they want to get Musk out of Tesla?
The national goal of the Tesla takedown protest is to get him off get the board to fire him from Tesla.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that should be the goal, because I think Tesla, run by somebody much better, it could be still a great car company.
Well, I'll tell you where I push back. It is that he owns such a large amount of Tesla stock that the idea of getting Tesla shut down is to make his personal stock worthless. That's actually the goal.
Well, I don't think,
you really can't make his stock worthless without making everyone else worthless as well.
Well,
I didn't hear what you can't do.
Yeah, I was just saying, you can't make his stock worthless without making every other shareholder stock worthless, which is effectively shutting it down. So to your question that somehow you could keep Tesla alive, absent, like somehow hurt Elon Musk's stock value in Tesla, that's not possible. So it's going to go up or down with the success of Tesla, unless he decides to sell his stock, or unless, he no longer has this problem. At one point he had a problem because he borrowed against a lot of it to buy Twitter, but now he's got like all sorts of new money because of the AI stuff, and this, so he no longer, and I'm sure he's deleveraged a lot of that, those loans, so he doesn't have that leverage issue anymore.
You're right. It's not going to bring him into poverty, but it will negatively affect him if Tesla all of a sudden became insolvent or became
becomes insolvent or not insolvent based on its own operations and based on its own car sales. It's not going to be based on.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree, but European car sales with Tesla are down 70%.
Well,
so that's pretty good.
But some part of it, by the way, is not just the politics. Part of it, there's a lot of competition in the EV market. Lithium prices, by the way, have crashed. Okay, we just actually had a lithium mine that was one that here in Nevada that was, I guess, supposed to open. It's foreign owned, but because we have, I think, in Nevada the only last kind of active lithium operations to mine it. But it was because the prices have crashed because EV sales are just less than expected everywhere. So there's other things going on. And by the way, even in the terms of something like Palantir, you should like get which has a very robust stock market value. Okay.
Yeah.
Its peak stock price was the first year into the Biden administration because Palantir is a major defense contractor, and the U.S. government's going to be buying stuff from Palantir no matter who the president is.
Yeah.
Internationally, yeah. So, just speaking of Musk's wealth, they announced yesterday the federal government has given contracts to 4, I believe, AI companies, one of which is Grok, which is Musk's AI company. And by the way, Grok bought X, so Grok is the owner of X. So, but everyone should be aware of that. I think 4 or 5 AI companies were awarded contracts by the federal government yesterday or the day before.
Well, as long as Musk and Trump are still friends, they're going to help him out, which is totally unfair. But at the same time, look, when I'm in Europe and when I'm in Portugal, there are Chinese cars everywhere. And I've seen some of the latest BYD electric car EVs, and they are as good, if not better, The people are buying them. They're no longer buying Teslas. They're buying BYDs, and they're making. The EU is making trade agreements with China, and basically Tesla is going to be blocked out. They're going to be blocked out in China, where they have big factories, and China can just flip them on and off as they will, which they will. And European Union countries, Europe will replace Tesla with Chinese stuff that won't be tariffed. And so all of a sudden Tesla, who's invested so much in Europe and China, will be shut down, shut off completely. And they're going to be replaced by Chinese, and it'll be fine for the great for the Chinese, fine for the Europeans, bad for Tesla, bad for America. And that's basically where stuff's going. America right now, and Donald Trump is the most hated man in the world, and particularly in Europe and Canada. Let's not forget Canada. They don't like Trump either. And there is an ongoing boycott of everything American in Western Europe. I see it every time I go there. It's like nobody buys American products. I don't buy American products for the same reason. He needs to be punished, and if that's a way to punish him, so be it.
I think Canada also is boycotting America.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
My wife was just at the grocery store picking up some pop, and we get a no-name pop now, and it's hard to find.
Yeah.
Coke's there all over the place. Pepsi's there all over the place. The no-name stuff that's produced here in Canada, that flies off the shelves. So that's just a small indication.
Yeah, and it's true, and there is a campaign. Anyway, we are heavily into the closing comments, pearls of wisdom part of the show, so I'm gonna make sure we get to everybody. And let's see. Oh, it's the great and powerful Reverend Scott. It's your turn to do closing comments, pearls of wisdom.
Thank you. Great to see everybody, and great to see, of course, the great Ben Mendelsohn. And when my screenplay is sold, which is going to be The Diplomat's Spouse, about his life as a secret agent, he's going to get all of the royalty. It's going to be it's going to be either a movie or a serial drama. I'm not sure which yet.
You're working on.
As we talk about the future of the Democratic Party, what I constantly am going back to is Ezra Klein's conversation with Gary Gerstle. Gerstle wrote a book called The Rise and Fall of the Neoliberal Order, and he introduced Klein in that discussion to the concept of political orders, right? And you know you're in an order, right, when your opponents adopt your strategies, right? So he has two. I mean, Gerstle thinks there's two in the 20th century. There's FDR's, New Deal liberalism. And what does Eisenhower do? Does he come in and say, "Oh, I'm going to undo this and roll it"? No, he expands the government, right? He as a Republican, he builds the middle class. He through things like the GI Bill and through things like the interstate highway system. He is in the shadow of FDR, even though he's a Republican. And the second was the neoliberal order, which comes in the 70s, right? And this is it's seen as Reaganism. And what do the Democrats do? They imitate it, right? When Bill Clinton comes in, like the great Democratic Pope, what does he do? He said something Reagan-esque, right? The era of big government is over, right? He collaborates with Gingrich and that stuff, right? Because the order of the day is neoliberalism, right? And so, the question is that order collapsing, right? Which I think it probably, and his Gerstle's argument is, it's coming to an end. It's teetering at the financial crisis, right? And along with skepticism with things like Iraq on international alliances and things like that, Trump and right-wing populism is a response. I don't know if it'll be the victorious response, but it's the response, right? And I think what we're doing very often, what Kamala Harris did, was double down on the old order, right? Double down on a defense of democratic neoliberalism in the face of a populist challenge, which I think is a losing strategy. Now, I think, look, I don't like Mamdani's anti-Semitism, but I think Mamdani might be the face in many other ways of a left-wing populist response, right? What like something that would not be the sort of business as usual neoliberalism. And I think, we got to look at people like that. I mean, that I think, that sort of populist left-wing response. And again, some people, it might be too left-wing for some people when you're talking about government grocery stores and stuff, but I do think Mamdani's got it, right? I mean, he's got his finger on the pulse when people feel like the system's not working for them, especially in New York, where they feel like it's unaffordable and just oppressive in just the way things are outpriced for the average New Yorker. That's a guy to pay attention to, and I think that's the future of trying to think through what does it look like to sort of part with neoliberalism. And again, another option is Ezra Klein's abundance agenda, right? I mean, there's another viable picture of a way to go that transcends sort of the neoliberal take, which again, I think we doubled down on in the last election, and it wasn't helpful. Thanks, everybody. Great to see you.
Thank you, Reverend Scott. That was great. I love listening there. All right. Oh my goodness. I'm looking at our stage here, and it just occurred to me that Lou is here. Oh my goodness, Lou. We haven't heard from you in such a long time. I'm gonna give you some space to get us caught up. First of all, where are you?
Long time no Lou.
No Lou.
I was just listening for a long time, but it was okay because indeed I haven't been here for a very long time, so it was good to listen to you guys and the different opinions, and I agree and disagree, and catching up a little bit with the American saga. Where am I? Italy?
Okay.
Where I will go soon. Sicily to have a djembe workshop with the biggest maestro in Guinea. So it's gonna be a big thing, yes, a very big thing.
Sounds exciting.
And, yes, then I will go to Holland for work, and after that I will go to Capo Verde again, and I'm back since 2 weeks from Capo Verde.
Did you end up buying a property in Capo Verde?
Unfortunately not, but I have people now there, so they are looking for me. And the prices went up. They really, really went up. So if you, because I know you have money, you have money, I strongly suggest you invest in Capo Verde. And they expect that even Boa Vista is going up. So you can buy a property here and, just let the money come without doing anything, basically. Really, because all these local airlines are going to fly to Cape Verde now, which means there will be competition. More people will come, and it will be crazy. And on one hand is good, of course, that you get more tourists. On the other hand, it's not good for the island because it will miss that the charm that Cape Verde has, that is a little bit secluded, touristic, nice, but not too much, And so
It is the one place that, while we're here in West Africa, I wish we would have gone. I don't know.
Really? You didn't move, we still can go.
I know.
You're still alive.
I'm still there. We can still do it.
Don't postpone it, or you get to maybe too old and then you don't do it anymore,
We can still do it. Well, we can do it from Porto. It's not so bad.
Yeah, exactly, and it's very cheap from Porto. Very, very cheap to go there. So.
Yeah, those Portuguese-speaking countries do support each other. So.
Yeah, but as for the political part, I haven't been following that much. Only the European part a bit. So we are counting back with a huge tariff counterback. I don't know how to call it, of 72 million. On certain products, and I think this will have an impact on Americans, on American middle class. And maybe first we will be the most impacted, we as Europe, but eventually it will be American. And I don't know who is advising this guy, Trump, because these tariffs are gonna come back and hit you really hard.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Europe does not need America. They just don't.
Exactly.
Everything that's American can be replaced by Chinese. Everything.
Yes. And we are already doing that, started to do that.
And you know who else gets a hand on this is Brazil. There's a lot of stuff Brazil.
Yeah, correct. The only thing I'm not so happy about is that the China thing, because China is very dangerous. It's doing, it seems like innocuous, but it's not.
Yeah.
He's just will become the most.
There's a little bit of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, sort of.
Well, more enemy is really an enemy. You have to compare it with Russia. Only Russia is clear in its aggression and it's clear in its technique of spying and of compromising data and things like that. China, it does it better in a more subtle way, which
They're
is more
much more
dangerous.
civilized.
But it's more dangerous. On the long run, it's more dangerous. China is something that we have to watch very good. And yeah, for Putin, I don't know what to say. Of course, it all depends what that orange guy is gonna do, because one day he loves Putin, the other day he doesn't like Putin, and yeah, you know.
You think about it, we have three simultaneous, horrible, awful, terrible people. We have Putin, Netanyahu, and Trump. And just think, if the three of them all three of them were in jail, how much better the world would be right now.
Yes, but this wishful thinking that will never happen. So you have to be realistic and work with what you have. Yeah, and there is no way that Putin is going to be put to jail. There's no way that Netanyahu is going to be put to jail. There's no way in heaven and
But just imagine all the damage those three individuals have done.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all this triangle is all perfectly built in years and years, because it's very silly to think that this has happened because of what Trump came to power and whatever. Netanyahu was preparing this for a very long time. Putin has been preparing this for 30 years or longer, So it's a bit naive when you think like, oh yeah, but because now and that's what happened in... No. This is just reasons to give them power, to give them things that happen that gives them the reason to do what I already planning to do for a long time. Yeah, and I am actually worried because for us, what is important, okay, the terrorists, we can go around it. We do have what you said, we do have everything to sustain ourselves. We just are a chaos. The European Union is a chaos. He really, really has to do something. I don't know if you listen to Macron speak. I think that was very good. I'm not a big fan of Macron, never been, but in this case, yes. In this case, I think Europe needs a kind of a leader, somebody that stands out, and then it's gonna be, on the front line.
I agree.
It's like, listen,
I think he's been stepping up and filling the back.
It's been stepping up for different reasons. Of course, there's gonna be election or whatever, so different reasons. He's maybe aiming to get a higher rank or whatever, but it's correct. It's what we need, and France is strong. It's very strong.
You're right. Yeah. We need to identify people who are charismatic and who are good communicators. And we talked a little bit about that in the United States. I've been very impressed with John Ossoff, and he's running for re-election, and you don't hear that much about him because he's a very. I think he's only in his first term. And this is his first true re-election. I know that he was like, I think he had, but he's really come out. I don't know if you've seen him speak, but he's really spot on. And I really like Gavin. I think Gavin is stepping up and really communicating well and strongly, and so has Chris Murphy. So we do have some stars, and we should really be utilizing them. Anyway, thank you so much. Did you want to land on that?
No, yes, just to land on that. It's just maybe this is what I always said is a wake-up call for Europe. I'm only worried about Meloni because, as usual, she's waiting, and she wants to be the Trump dog, and she's like very cautious in what she says and does, and we not act too hard on the tariff, so we don't think careful and things like that. She's playing the field as usual, and you know how it is.
Well, she's quite the politician.
She is. I always said that she's a very smart politician. I never said that she's not a smart politician. One of the smartest that Italy had for a very long time.
And you know what? The thing is, everybody had such low expectations for her that just because she is much better than we thought, she's managed to, keep everybody at bay.
No. But when I mean a good politician, I mean what a politician usually does, and that is for me a bad thing. And what it means is like trying to be manipulative and trying to keep the feet in different pair of shoes, but in the end doing actually nothing or make it worse for his own country. And that is just doing that I'm telling you, so that means she's back as the prime minister for Italy, and it's also, and Russia doesn't even have to fight like a military war or whatever, or trying to do propaganda in Italy. It's Italy is a Russian satellite. It's been for a long time. They don't need to do anything in Italy because there is always different, no matter what. This is really bad. I cannot comprehend it because when I go to the Holland, it's the other way around. And the last thing I want to tell you, and I think you guys are aware of this because of the university and you have high professor in your university and what's happening in the university because of the orange guy. They want to come to Europe and they have been invited for a lot of European countries, the higher yes. Do you know? So half of Europe is inviting them. You know the only country that didn't invite anybody? That's Italy. Italy, of course. So there you go.
So which is sad because you're such great academics.
It's sad because Italy is plunging back into the Middle Ages.
Going in the right direction.
Anyway,
your voice. You need to break.
I will try to be a little bit, to come a little bit more stand up. If I'm not here, it's not really on Clubhouse. It's just cut off and probably whatever
this first
thing.
That's totally fair. All right, thanks, Luke. All right, we are definitely at the top of the hour. So what I'm going to do is sort of see who wants to do a closing comment, pearls of wisdom, and we'll sort of do it popcorn. Anybody want to go first? David, did you have any closing comment, pearls of wisdom? Oh, Moose, why don't you go, Moose?
Thanks. Yeah, I'll keep it short. It's I don't know if it's pearls of wisdom or just more awareness, but I just saw a headline and skimmed through the article. A 37-year-old professor in Camarillo, California, was abducted by ICE for having the audacity to protest. It was a cannabis raid, a cannabis farm raid. They were using the ICE agents were using tear gas, and this professor had, one of the tear gas canisters landed near a protester in a wheelchair, and so this professor had the audacity to try to run to the aid of this handicapped protester, and at that point he was abducted. The ICE agents were masked, they threw him in an unmarked vehicle, and he's still missing.
That is so fucked up.
Keep waiting.
It's crazy.
I want to mow it alone with him.
Well, thanks for the I did hear a little bit about that. That's outrageous. Anyway, let's go to Andrew. Did you have any closing comment, pearls of wisdom?
Yeah, quickly. I read an article this morning. It was about ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot had gone up against Atari 2600 replica chess, and both of them failed miserably. Can't do chess, and so then they went up against Gemini, and Gemini asked the person, was there anything? Well, first it said, "Oh, killing it, I'll kill it."
Well, yeah,
Because
they've learned that from Rock.
Multimodal LLM or whatever.
I wanted you to make it scar.
Then it asked, is there anything that you found really significant in your other two competitions? And the guy responded, yeah, both of them said they'd kill it. And then Gemini said, yes, you're right. I won't be able to beat Atari 2600. So it declined to play. So there you go.
2600. A blast from the past. Thank you, Andrew. All right, let's go. Closing comment. Ken, do you have a closing comment?
Well, yeah, I actually thought you guys talked about this because it's probably the number one issue that's being spoken about, at least in the United States today on domestic politics, is the Supreme Court ruling regarding allowing Trump to fire all these employees, particularly in the Department of Education. So what really is interesting about this is that the Department of Education, which a Republican president has wanted to dismantle, not just Trump, which is only to the people who don't know, it's only existed since the Carter administration. They used to,
I think it wasn't started during Nixon. Nixon started under
Carter. It was under Carter. It was, and to be very blunt about it, it was Jimmy Carter's payoff to the NEA. That's what that was. Okay, but it used to be part of something called HEW, which was Health, Education, and Welfare. Most of HEW is now HHS, so now education's separate, right? So he's not technically allowed to actually close down the department because it was created by Congress. So he didn't do that. Okay, they're going to leave us. There's a Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon. There's a skeleton staff there. But there is no, in the congressional authorization, it never said how many employees do you have to have, okay? Or do you have to actually service student loans, or did you move the servicing of student loans to the Small Business Administration, which Linda McMahon actually used to run under Trump's first term? And that's what they're doing, okay? And so, it's something like, we don't know what the future's going to be, but like post-Trump, I think it's something, if we ever get back to some normalcy, Congress is now going to need to think about. If a president could effectively dismantle an executive agency created by Congress by firing 90% of its employees, okay, and reallocating some to other whatever. Does Congress need, when they created a department, to put in more stipulations about how it gets funded, and what could be cut and what can't be cut, without their permission? Because he's essentially dismantled the Department of Education without actually legally dismantling it. And then that was actually the point of Sotomayor's dissent, okay, in the report, okay? So, and that was like one of the bigger stories that was circulating in U.S. media today, and that's, I did have a question though I think it was for Stephanie, mentioned Italy's relation with Russia. Italy is like themselves. Forget about what NATO's doing as its entity. Italy's a member of NATO. Italy's actually selling armaments to Ukraine. So how favorable are they to Russia if they're arming Ukraine? I don't understand that.
It's truly confusing because there's so many mixed interests. Because clearly Meloni had been getting closer to Putin, and that was one of the things that was scary. But at the same time, she's like threading the needle. She's trying to make nice to NATO by pretending like she cares about Ukraine. So she's doing that, like she's doing both things at the same time. So it's like Lou said, it's disingenuous. But anyway, thanks, Ken. All right, we're almost out of here. Let's go to David, and then anybody else. Oh, I want to go to Rick and then Denise. So David first, then Rick, Denise, and then anybody else who wants to say something last minute. So let's go. What did I say? I don't even remember what I said. David first, then Rick, then Denise.
Yeah, I don't have much.
Okay.
I just keep your eyes on some of the economic data because
eyes on the prize.
Yeah, as Trump might be having problems with Epstein or something like that, he's still waving the age-old his solution to everything. His silver bullet is tariffs, even though I think we're in store for.
Let's get back to the Gilded Age.
Well, inflation ticked up today. That was the other, big headline news today.
Right.
Inflation ticked up to where it's running now at an annual rate,
Almost
3%.
Yeah.
And there's some, you can't really prove it, but there's some element to believe that the tariffs had something to do with that, because the tariffs will be inflationary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one comment to that is gasoline prices are lower than they've been in recent memory, including the Biden administration. Some of the last couple of years of it, anyway, because what's going on in the Middle East is not having the effect that you would have thought it would have. Perhaps because Iran and Russia want U.S. production that is essentially stopping drilling. Ask Denise. Denise is still here. How Houston's economy is doing, because I don't think the drilling programs for this fracking oil are as robust as they used to be. So
real shaky.
yeah. Drill baby drill is not going to get us out of it. That's my point.
All right, thanks, David. Okay, Rick, you're up.
It's like a glimpse into
Well, two things. Keep an eye on. There may be a farm workers strike in the offing. They are talking about it right now.
Wow.
Here in our county and in Santa Barbara County and maybe a couple other counties. And it's a short strike. It's not an open-ended strike. It's like a 3 or 4 day strike. The idea right now. So keep an eye on that. Depending where it is in the planting and harvesting cycle, that could really be damaging, or it could be not so damaging, So I'm not quite sure where we're at. We kind of have a year-round growing season here, depending on the crop. So anyway, that's something to watch for. Now the other.
Hey, Rick, can I ask you a question? Wasn't there supposed to be some sort of nationwide resistant event on July 19th or something? I remember it.
Yeah, there's going to be another program. Yeah,
It's tomorrow.
And it's the John Lewis. It's basically to celebrate John Lewis.
Make good trouble. Make good trouble.
Yeah, make good trouble. So that's the thing.
Okay.
So it has not gotten nearly as much as the No Kings, much publicity as No Kings, but I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people out there. The other thing, we're making the same mistake that we always make. We're letting the Republicans define candidates and define, I was reading about it, and all he is basically a socialist. Some of my friends call him communist.
Yeah.
He wants to, he wants to shut down all the grocery stores. This is the narrative that in the Midwest is absolutely believed, that he wants to shut down privately owned businesses and have government-owned grocery stores. So I started doing a little research. He wants to start 5 grocery stores in underserved areas where there are no grocery stores, using city-owned buildings. And we know that there's we know that there has been for years, and the big grocery store chains will not go into those areas. So when I read about it, I started doing research on city-owned grocery stores. You know who has city-owned grocery stores? Kansas.
State away.
Kansas has city-owned grocery stores. There's something called a Merck. And it's kind of like a co-op, and they keep prices down, and it serves a lot of customers that the big grocery stores don't serve. Florida has had city-owned grocery stores in rural areas. The biggest one kind of fell apart because they still could not compete profit-wise. They couldn't get the products cheap enough, and they couldn't have enough people. running a grocery store is not for faint of heart. It's a really difficult business. So he would need to, Mamdani would need to find somebody that really knew that business. But using city-owned properties and lowering taxes for these stores is not a bad idea. He has said absolutely nothing about shutting down Whole Foods or CVS or Walmart. I don't know if it's Walmart in New York City, but Target and all those other stores. So, but we've let the GOP define it without actually telling the story of what it really is.
This might as well be a commercial.
We make this mistake over and over and over and over. And even I know a lot of Democrats who say, "No, he wants to shut down grocery stores."
If that was his only issue, he wouldn't have a problem because
I know. There's other
okay, so there's a lot of other things. Yeah, and by the way, if someone who worked in New York City government, I'm not telling you, the grocery store thing is not as crazy as people think it is, and I'm nowhere near as liberal as he is. But it's not a crazy idea in a food desert, okay?
Yeah.
The issue you have in New York City, okay, is this, and nobody's asked this question, which is, in a lot of these same areas, because of budgetary issues, you've been closing firehouses, you've been closing public hospitals, okay? Is the best use, okay, of the city's money to operate grocery stores when you can't even apparently operate a fire department or a public hospital, because a lot of people would argue those two things are more important than if you have a convenient grocery store. I mean, if you had to choose. Because government is effectively about choosing and prioritizing. But nobody's actually raised that issue. But I don't think the supermarket is the most controversial issue in that race.
No.
Go ahead.
Ken, what I'm talking about is the perception across the country. Because the perception across the country is not that New York doesn't have enough police or doesn't have enough fire departments. But when you say you're going to close grocery stores, that's what's making the news. The other issues on how New York government works is a whole other thing. What they are trying to do is tell a story about who this guy is. And we are not actually, I don't think he would be a great mayor because I don't think he has the experience to do that. But, we are letting the story be told in a way that's so far off, and not a serious conversation. And what you were talking about is serious conversation about how city governments are run, and that should be told. But you're not going to tell that in a meme. What you tell in a meme is, here's a socialist who wants the government to own all the grocery stores. And that's what I'm talking about.
There you go. All right, thanks, Rick. Good topic, to be continued. All right, Denise, you get the caboose. You're up.
I do. Well, I want to shout out my sweet friend Royfield in the audience, and that's his PTR is when we got to meet in person. And it was
I was wondering who that was.
amazing.
That is such a great picture. I love it.
So my encouragement is whoever you can make sure you spend some actual FaceTime with some friends this week, that you actually connect. And if you can't connect that way, pick up the phone and at least do a Zoom. Royfield, you owe me a Zoom or a connection. But we're very lucky to have found each other and to find such interesting people in this environment, and just take it a step further, make it more real. Everybody benefit.
Yep, that's so true. Thank you so much, Denise. And it is so good to see Royfield. I consider Royfield my buddy, and at some point I'm going to be coming up to visit him, and he's going to come down and visit us in Porto. So to be continued. So we've gone through a Tuesday. It's 5:16 here in Ouagadougou, in Ouagadamil. And we will be back tomorrow, same time, same station. and take care of you all. And we'll be playing the song, so if there's any links down below in the chat room, feel free to take them and look at all the good stuff that we have there.
The older
You want that one to happen, but you might not want the others to happen, or the other one to happen, and that other one is the case. That's
forms of which I can consider G-force or having sequence G-forces, and that to a certain extent. There has to be a skill level into it as well. And there has to be rigorous training for the actual thing that you're doing that is using your body. I think these things will calculate into what makes a sport for me, right? I don't think that, for me, racing is more of a skill that people can't, like, not your everyday person can't just be a good racer, right? But everybody can race, but being a good racer is different. Now, I don't think it really has a large load of athletic ability coming to it. Athletes don't really have to be, you don't have to be an athlete to race. You can be just a regular person to go race.
There are no fat race car drivers, one.
Because of two, that's why cars.
Well, I mean, that's a part, that literally is a part of it. That's a regulation. So and then they do. Some people do. They have to train in wind tunnels sometimes. And if you think about a race like the 24 Hours of Le Mans, you're driving for 24 hours around the track. You do have to train for that. That is an immense load on the body. Like, I don't think, maybe you don't understand the elements of it, but I mean, we can, like, but I think it's definitely a sport. It takes precision. Usually it's a manual car, so you are doing something. You have to remain focused, probably more focused than a lot of other sports. So I would argue that it is a sport, but we don't have to.
I don't fight you on the just. I don't think I could be either way for racing, in my opinion, right? But for me, I fight when people say golf is a sport. Golf is not a sport. Sorry, it's a hobby.
But I think I think golf is a sport. But the only reason I even brought that up is because that's the only sport I could think of where it's not a measure of, like, because you're controlling a 2-ton vehicle or whatever, and so it's about what you can do and how well you can do it. It's not so. And I think if you go by that measure, women are better at sports than men.
I'm not arguing with her.
Oh, that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, I'm not arguing. That wasn't my thing. Like, bowling, to me, isn't a sport. Fuck that. It's not a sport. That's a hobby.
Yeah. I can't decide on this. I've thought about this in my
Archery?
when I'm not contemplating my own death.
Archery, fucking no.
I think about it.
Archery's not a sport.
I don't know, man. There's a lot of skill and training in bowling and golf. I mean, it's definitely not a hobby.
But I'm saying but like, once you fine tune the skill, like, it's all you're doing is fine tuning the skill. You're not really, like, using a bunch of, like, athletic ability to be good at bowling, in my opinion.
It's not like a high intensity sport, but it's a sport. It's a leisure sport.
Yeah, so I'm saying, like, yeah, a leisure sport, right? I'll call it leisure sport, but it's like, to me, it's like, I can't, if me and Goat are bowling, I can't stop Goat from winning.
Goat die.
I'm sorry, misogynist?